Welcome to the Junction. This is the XFL. This is the SEC Junction XFL podcast. Are you ready for some football? With hope in our hearts for the XFL, she offers hope in our youth. Crissy Froyd joins us for an interview on today's podcast. Well, hello. I hope you all enjoyed the weekend's games this weekend. On this podcast, we'll have a special guest, Miss Crissy Froyd. Crissy Froyd, you might not know her yet, but I promise you she has a bright future. And actually, if you're in the Baton Rouge area, it's a very good chance you have seen her work and her face around. She is a young, inspiring sports journalist who started at the age of 15. But let us just wait with the details, as you will have a chance to listen to her own words, her own telling of her background. This is the SEC Junction XFL podcast. Welcome, welcome. Do find us on Twitter at The Swamp Dane. I'm your host, MJ Cropper, also known as The Swamp Dane himself. So, in this interview we have Crissy Froyd. In her young life, she has already started with interviewing and getting access to NFL quarterbacks and has worked at WAFB in Baton Rouge and for the Valley Shook blog site of covering LSU sports, and moving on to USA Today Sports Media Group, only at the bright age of 20. So, you know what? While you're sitting there eating your chips and playing your games, she is watching and breaking down film and reporting on the games that you all want to watch. And she is even covering the XFL, and this is the big reason why we have her on today. She sees no limits. She is inspiring. She is very articulate, very knowledgeable of football, putting us all to shame. You know, they say if you can't beat them, join them. And even though she's joining my podcast, I'm the one who is frail at the tip. And it is just a pleasure to have her. It was a pleasure talking to her, get to know her background story, her little life, the early life as it has been. And let me tell you, she will never, in the future, she's going to go far, and she'll never have time for little podcasts on the XFL. She's going to be on docket, cashing in on the big production teams, the big sports journalist broadcast networks. Yes, that's right. This is the chance to get her before she has her huge breakthrough, and I don't mean that to be a Freudian slip. She's going to have that big break for sure, because she's already chipping at the break. She will make it, and it's a pleasure to have her and to introduce her to you all, my listeners. So let's just go ahead and have a listen. So I appreciate you taking your time to talk to me. But so Crissy, tell me a little bit about yourself. What have you? I understand that you are quite young and new to the journalism part of your life, but how did that come about, and how early did you actually start?
So I was 15 years old whenever
15.
I started. My dad was a Titans fan when I was growing up, and I always kept up with the team, but I was more interested in animals, so I was never interested in journalism as a career. And we had this 8-page paper due for English, and my dad took me to a Titans game, and I watched Zach Mettenberger, and I noticed everyone was saying they were like, oh, it's all on this guy, it's all this guy's fault. And me with my, I don't know, I wouldn't say limited football knowledge, but not nearly as extensive as it is now, I was like, well, reasonably speaking, this can't possibly be all this guy's fault. And so I did this deep dive and all this research and got a 100 on this 8-page paper that I had written about Zach Mettenberger and why the Titans are not bad, solely because of him. And so after that, my teacher was like, you should seriously consider sports journalism. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Okay.
Not really interested, but okay. And so I joined my journalism program and wasn't very good at first. I learned a few things on Alex Penny, a couple of things like that, and submitted them as my portfolio to all these different outlets. And surprisingly, whenever I was barely 16 and still working at Chick-fil-A, Campus Sports hired me. And so I started looking for them, read about everything under the sun, from NFL to Greek League basketball to Little League stuff and happenings and just crazy things too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did fan-sided and covered LSU and Titan there. SB Nation, I did a lot of LSU work. I credit them with a lot of my growth. They did so much. They did so much for me, and that was the first time that I was really credentialed and on site and doing a lot. And I've gotten a lot of really great. A lot of my greatest work is probably on Valley Shook. And then somewhere along that line, I want to say it was about 17, whenever USA Today Sports Media Group brought me on with the launch of the Titans Wire, and I was a contributor there. And then later on, I was promoted to the managing editor, and I was credentialed to Titans games, and so I covered on site in addition to remote, even though I'm in Baton Rouge, and that was kind of hard. I am also now the editor of the LSU division, which is easier because I am here in Baton Rouge. And I've kind of stepped back a little bit to more of a staff writer role for the Titan Wire, so I'm not handling two teams at the head position at the same time. That does get tough, and there's just a lot of work that goes into it. And so, I basically write LSU and Titans, and then I've always kind of focused in on quarterbacks, specifically SEC quarterbacks. And I've kind of made, a brand out of it. Everybody knows me for Zach Mettenberger, which is kind of funny because I just got off the phone with him not too long ago. He's with the Spring League now. He did an interview, and kind of surprised he didn't make it into the XFL, but that is what it is at this point.
That's what actually first drew me to your Twitter page, was that the Mettenberger stuff. I was like, exactly. I've been wondering about this myself. Why isn't Zach Mettenberger in the XFL? I was really confused because I'm pretty sure, in my own opinion, in my own thoughts, that he would be pretty effective in the XFL, and he would be, he's got potential to be a better quarterback than some people playing right now, I thought. And so I was a little confused about that. I didn't know the story. I didn't know why he. And then so I was drawn to that article, and I started kind of looking about and seeing things. And I'm like, who is this person that I'm reading about? Because they're kind of covering some stuff that I want to cover. So, and then. Then you told me who you were a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I didn't even realize you're still a student. I just imagined, that you were just out of school or something. But
no, I'm a junior. I'm 20.
That was even a little more of a okay. So, but anyway, so I mean that's great for you. I mean, you're definitely motivated, and so that's pretty impressive. And so
So that's a little bit of a story in itself that I didn't even see come. I just was thinking, who is this person that has this track or this wire on Mettenberger, and then so yeah, it was pretty interesting. So yeah, go ahead.
I started with Mettenberger, and I've kind of, that's one career that I've stayed the course with the whole time through all the ups and downs for really no particular reason other than the reason that I started with it. It's like my beginning. And I think it's funny that you mentioned that you were confused whenever you were talking about your feelings towards why he wasn't in the league, because that's exactly what he told me. He said it was just, it's kind of confusing because he was in the draft pool and they were kind of using him for stuff. And as far as like publicity and being the face of a league, like I know Zach Mettenberger doesn't necessarily really like jump out at you, but at the same time, if Landry Jones and Cardale Jones are your quote-unquote face of the league, well, I think that Zach Mettenberger is a lot more well-known and that he's got a lot more of like a loyal like cult following within SEC fans and LSU fans. And I attended some of the games. I covered some of the games that he played for the Alliance of American Football, and I mean, there was noticeable improvement in the way that he went through his progressions, his overall accuracy, the way he gets in the pocket. Like it genuinely looked like he had gotten better, and it's not just like, oh, he's playing against lesser talented football players, which I guess you could see that whenever you're looking at a league like that. But at the same time, like you can tell when a quarterback has improved regardless of his supporting cast, and it was very obvious to me. And so I think, and based on some of the guys that are starting in the XFL, like not to knock anybody, but some of the programs, like the super, super tiny programs of these guys that are just not established whatsoever and have made plenty of mistakes. And I think my argument is that if Aaron Murray was given a chance in the XFL, there's absolutely no reason why Zach Mettenberger should be given a chance. And there's no way he could be worse than Aaron Murray is right now. Aaron Murray is on the brink of getting kicked out of his first football league, which, poor guy, like, I know that he's done a good job as an analyst. I mean, not everyone can be 100% successful, and I don't mean to try to, like, target anybody, but, I mean, that's just one that really sticks out since he's already been demoted. And I think they have Cornelius something or another. I can't remember his name right now.
Taylor Cornelius from Oklahoma State. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Aaron Murray is a obvious one to think about because, well, first off, Mettenberger was at Georgia, and then he transferred to the junior college in Kansas, then ended up at LSU. And so he came back and faced Aaron Murray in Georgia, which was a lot of points. There was a lot of points in that game. So they had So it's kind of it comes back to that, So it's kind of easy to compare those two, Mettenberger and Murray. So they're obviously about the same age. They had not exactly the same track on the same career. They've had a little bit of a different track on their career, but and Mettenberger probably has more, like you said, more NFL starts. So you would think that he would have a little bit of he would draw a little bit more interest. So it is a little mysterious, I think. But I know that they're supposed to have a team 9, and I mean obviously as they go through the depth chart as it kind of bounces around with the guys that they're starting and the guys that they're cutting, there may be a chance for him to kind of wiggle in there somewhere, especially with the spring league, which he's in now. That showcase is coming up next month. And so if it's going to happen, I feel like it's going to happen, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. But but then for this year anyway, he'll be a little bit behind schedule as far as getting onto a team and learning, because they had that guy. Who was it now that I'm thinking of that they just had a quarterback that was an okay name that they signed, but he hadn't really come around because I'm thinking it's a time thing. Well, they have that Luis Perez guy who played in AAF as well. He got traded to New York, and he's stuck down on a third string right now. But I don't know if so it's a little strange that they would trade for a third string quarterback. So is it really he's a third string talent wise, or is it just because he just got on the team? so he's a little bit behind. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, I think that's a possibility. But one thing that I noticed in covering the Alliance is just how much they slide up and down the depth chart. So somebody could be third string one week, and then next week they're the starter. And
right.
I've also seen guys that are listed as third string at certain positions come out on the field for several plays. So just because they sit low on the depth chart doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to see them. So there's also that to consider. And I don't think that I haven't personally seen in my time covering the XFL, I haven't seen anybody run like a rotating quarterback system. I did see St. Louis bring in another quarterback for certain packages.
Right.
But
you're talking about Nick Fitzgerald from Mississippi State, for example? Yeah.
Yes, that was the one. To my understanding, he got there very, very shortly before camp started. And so they had only installed like that one little package for him and to expand upon it, which I think will be interesting to watch just because of the athletic ability that's there. But I think that that's all it will ever be, because at the same time, like, this is an extremely mediocre passer. A 54% completion percentage in college is horrible. Like, that's it's to the point that you would have to use him in a very specific way, like the way that Dan Mullen was able to. But I wouldn't, or a position change, I would not personally want him out there throwing the football, and I can't imagine anyone else would either.
Well, this is great that we're just talking quarterbacks, because this is your specialty, right? Quarterbacks. Isn't that what the thing is? Is that you are in your spare time, you interview quarterbacks?
That's what I say. I interview quarterbacks in my spare time, and that has held very true lately, because I had, like I said, Mettenberger today. I'm going to have Anthony Gordon soon. I had Jordan Love not too long ago. Jordan Thomas yesterday. So there's I can't say I've had a lot of spare time lately, but I've had a lot of quarterback interviews. So.
Yeah. But, I mean, see, I was sort of kind of jokingly thinking, like, is it because you've played high school quarterback and you're like an old, burned-out high school quarterback, and you're like, are you from Texas or are you from Tennessee? Because you cover the Titans. Or are you from both? Or
I'm from Houston, but I've spent a lot of my life in Nashville. I live in South Carolina. I live in Tampa, Florida. Trying to think of anywhere else. A couple other places in Texas, Kansas. Yeah, I've lived a lot of different places.
You lived a lot of different places. Okay. So yeah. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. So, but do you have a stronger connection to Nashville or Houston? Would you say, or a little bit both? Because I mean, I'm thinking like the Titan connection here.
I honestly claim Nashville more just because that's where the Titans are, and because I don't know. I just like.
It kind of goes with the career. It kind of goes with the.
Yeah,
the job.
I just identify more with Nashville more. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's funny. It's a little funny. It's not like a huge thing, but Houston, at one time was the Oilers. So you were like have a.
Yeah.
So maybe like in your previous life, because you were born, I think you were born in the 21st century, I would think. So if you were born in the 20th century, you've been a Houston Oilers fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Which is funny because the Roughnecks kind of look like the Oilers, and Dan Pastorini is over here too. So.
Yeah. Well, it's not
kind of gives that vibe.
I don't know how funny the connection is, and if I'm making some jumps and loops, if I'm jumping through some loops to make a connection here. But it's also somewhat funny because Chris Landry, he's the NFL scout. Do you know about him? Do you know who he is?
A little bit.
Okay. Chris Landry, he's a guy that worked at LSU, and he became an NFL scout. He ran some of the first NFL combines, so he has a connection with Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Well, I interviewed him, and my podcast is now on his website. And so, but anyway, it's fun. It's not that funny. Like I'm jumping through some hoops to get this connection, or just a little funny. But he was actually working with Houston Oilers for a long time, and then he was with them as he's running their scouting program, and then when they moved to Tennessee, so there is something. So there's just a little something there with you and him being kind of this Houston, Tennessee kind of thing.
Yeah.
And of course LSU. So that's actually, was it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
What drew you to LSU? Because I've noticed you're a mass communications major, as I understand, Is it because LSU has a especially proficient mass communications program? Because I noticed there's a lot of people on ESPN that comes from LSU for some reason. Booger McFarland and Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears, all these LSU people are. Is there some kind of something I was not aware of that LSU has this pretty good program, or was it just your fandom of?
I would say that the Manship School it's good, it's tough, it's competitive. But the reason why I'm personally at LSU is because I started covering LSU at the same time I started covering the Titans, and I interviewed all these people, and before I knew it, I had made all these connections while I was in community college to LSU, and I just couldn't envision myself going anywhere else. And so that's
okay.
How
so
I
it was actually before you came to LSU. That you already were you were already covering LSU before you came to LSU.
Mhm.
Okay. And what exactly how that come about that you were covering LSU just by chance, just by circumstance, or what?
I started covering LSU because I said, I literally started my career covering one player. And so I covered Zach Mettenberger, and so I would expand backwards using this one player to figure out more about the Titans, and then I would go back into his college and I was like, oh, this is LSU, and so I can write about LSU quarterbacks now because I've studied this and I've studied all the guys behind them and all the guys that are there now. So I was just learning one concept at a time, one piece at a time, and then before I knew it, I knew. Like I said, I grew up with the Titans, so I already knew a lot about the Titans. But before I knew it, I knew everything about the Titans pretty intricately, and then I knew a very good bit about LSU, and I was I'm trying to build my portfolio and expand my career at the ripe age of 16 years old. So I think that I'm going to cover LSU too, and that's what I did. That's what I did, and I stayed that way for 4 years.
That's great.
So.
So how aware is Zach Mettenberger of you? Have you talked to him many times, or has he would you say that has he been a helpful hand? Has he been helpful along the way, or does he not really? Is he more of a distance thing?
Have I been helpful, or has he been helpful?
No, has he been helpful? Has he realized that you were this young, motivated girl who wanted to? So he recognized your desire, and he was like, oh, let me help you out, and let me be available to you more often. Has it been that way, or has it been a little more distant?
I think that Zach has had his own things going on throughout my career personally, but whenever I've been in press conferences for the Alliance, he's always answered my questions well, and then today, whenever we had the interview today, it was a really good interview. We stayed on the phone for a long time, and we talked about everything from the Titans to LSU, the XFL, and so I wouldn't say he's been a mentor, someone who's been there every step of the way or anything like that. But whenever I've been around him for some sort of media availability or for some type of interview, it's always been good.
Right. I guess it's just more of a strong familiarity between you two, he recognizes you because you are.
Based on what he says, it sounds like he reads a lot of LSU sports journalism, which I am obviously in. So I know he's read a lot of my work, but it's not like we work hand in hand together or anything.
Okay, I was just curious because you started so a while back covering him. I was wondering if he kind of picked up on it and kind of
it just kind of happened.
Took up a little mantle for you or something.
Yeah.
So football in general, were you before you said it was your father that kind of that got you to write that first was it a project you said on Mettenberger?
In paper.
So what was your interest in football before? Did you have a particular interest in football before that, or did it just kind of come with the whole thing at one time, or did you always kind of learn about football, or how much would you say you kind of understand the game as far as the X's and O's and the quarterback position, actually? How would you describe yourself as far as a football person?
Well, when I was younger, when I was a kid, as I said, I was more interested in animals. I always thought I was going to end up in dog shows. Because I showed dogs when I was younger, and that was the end all be all to me. And whenever I was midway through high school, I wanted to graduate high school and not go to college and go show dogs for the rest of my life because I was just like dead set on that. But I mean, as far as football goes, I was raised in a household that was very strong, like historically Oilers fans and Titans fans, and so it was very much a part of the like culture in my family, I guess you could say. And so it was always something that I like valued. It was something that was there and that was supposed to be there. And I took an interest in it, and I knew a lot about like player names and a lot about the league and everything, and I could hang with just about every single one of my dad's friends when I was a kid, like trivia-wise with football. But, I mean, obviously whenever you're like 11, 12 years old, you don't know anything about X's and O's, so that didn't come into play until later.
Of course, yeah, I didn't either.
When I first started my career when I was 15, I was very limited in my knowledge. I knew a lot about the things that I felt I was supposed to know about, just like the general going on, who's on the roster, this team likes to do this team has a reputation of this, but absolutely nothing in depth about the scheme or what type of quarterback they use or anything like that. And then a couple of years in, I knew a lot about offense and just about all the intricacies of the quarterback position. And then one day I realized that I knew next to nothing about defense. And so after I got hired in my first paid gig, I was like, okay, I have a problem. Like, I have a problem here, and I don't know enough about defense. And so I studied it, and I would force myself to watch film. I was like a sponge. I would go on anybody who would tell me anything. I would be willing to sit down with me and help me to understand. I read everything. I watched everything that I possibly could. And at this point, I can comfortably say that I feel like I know more about the game, the X's and O's, the intricacies, than just about anyone else that I'm competing with that's around my age, maybe a little bit older. One thing I don't like is that I know that there's this big stereotype around females not knowing anything, which is upsetting and offensive to people like me who actually do. But I mean, I've been around people who will literally, like other girls, that will literally say, "Oh, well, I feel like I don't need to know that. Oh, I don't think there's just not a reason to know that." And it's funny because so often these are the same girls that will be like, "Oh my gosh, like why would you say that? Like why would you stereotype us like that?" And I'm just like, "Sweetie, well you're going around and you're not even expressing an interest to know anything about the game. You can't work things like that." So that's something that's been kind of interesting to deal with. And you have sense. Like I think that it's kind of funny, but I feel like I've become a lot meaner since I've been involved in this, because you just get the feeling whenever you walk into the room, and you're a 19, 18-year-old girl like I was whenever I was first credentialed, and people just look at you. They have this notion in their heads that, oh, what is she doing? How did she even get this job? Like, what is she doing here? What could she possibly know? And so you go, I just kind of learned, I guess, to go in expecting that stigma to be there.
I mean, it's one thing to be a woman in the field, but to be a young, not only a young woman, but a very young woman, that must be, as you say, you kind of have to go in expecting it already, kind of knowing it's already there for you. Yeah. So that's quite interesting, Chris. And but can I ask you something? Do you feel like, do you kind of, like the like the cat on Shrek? Do you kind of feel like you could? I don't know how close you get to certain programs or anything, but do you actually like feel like it helps being the young? Because they might feel like you're kind of naive, but you have some credentials with the USA Today or whatever. So do you feel like it kind of helps to be like thought of as like a little bit like, a little naive, and then you kind of, you bring your background with you and maybe do you understand what I'm getting at? Like, do you feel like does it kind of like make people feel more acceptable, like more open to you just from the start, and then they find out, oh wait, this girl is actually like she got her things together. She's not this little little young girl just trying to have fun. She's actually pretty good, and she actually knows a thing or two about what she's doing.
Yeah, I guess I think that it's a little bit better to come in being underestimated than it is to be overestimated, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been pretty well received. I would like to think that I don't come across as too intimidating, although I've never shied away from asking a tough question. That's something that I feel like. I feel like there's so many people that are afraid to ask about someone's mistake or to ask a tough question. And as long as you're not rude about it and you don't just hit people with that and that's all that you do, then I think that it's worth asking. And there's a lot of football players that will talk to you about saying, like, what did you see on the interception, and did you think that you had a free play there or something? They will happily, like, to the point that it seems that they're almost refreshed by it. They'll go into detail and go into the X's and O's of it, and you end up with a really good quote and a better overall understanding of what they saw.
Right. Yeah. I was also just thinking, talking about the questions you're asking about, asking a hard question. It instantly drew me to XFL, thinking about, so what's your opinion about access in the XFL with all the, as soon as the kicker misses a field goal, there's a sideline reporter asking, so why'd you miss it? Or the interceptions. And the famous one this past weekend was the Matt McGloin incident with New York and DC.
Yeah.
So so what's your general opinions and thoughts about the XFL and all that's going on with their the presentation and the coverage? Like, is it just very intriguing for you to see something so accessible on TV, or like I'm sure
yeah.
It is, isn't it?
Whenever you cover a college team that has such restricted access, that it's almost crazy to see something like that. I have mixed emotions on that. I feel that it's a little bit invasive and overbearing, and I don't necessarily think that it's fair to the players. But at the same time, you're getting such just raw content, like it's real. It's right after it happened. Like, people can only keep their emotions in check to a certain extent, which I think showed, especially with Matt McGloin. But
yeah.
I mean, overall, I have to say that I like it. As long as the reporter is polite about it, because I mean, if somebody snaps at you or goes off on you because you walked up and said, "Why'd you miss that?" and just disrespect them in general, I think that's just kind of like a life rule. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see. It's one of those other things that makes it unique, and I think that's the thing with this league, is that it has to find a way to be unique without being gimmicky. That's going to help it stick, and I'm very curious to see how long it is able to stick around, and if there's a way that they can make it permanent. Because right now, I mean, by the numbers, from what I've seen and from what I've reported and what's been reported to me, it seems like things are trending in an overall positive direction, but I mean, it's normal to be skeptical about things like this, especially at this stage.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your coverage of the XFL personally? Because you have the Tennessee Titans and you have LSU, but are you?
Yeah. So
is it more geared towards the LSU side of things, the SEC, or do you kind of have a more broader coverage? You think, or
it is quite a mix. So before the season started, I dove into all of the notable SEC players, LSU players, and Titans players. And now that it started and that we're in the season, the Roughnecks are the closest team to me, so I kind of broadly cover that team as a whole. And I focus in on their former Titans players, their one former LSU player. And then across the league, anybody that I can get a hold of that's Titans, LSU, or SEC, I do what I can to work with them. Like Jordan Tommy is a perfect example of that. That's a guy that I talked to yesterday.
Yeah. But yep. So how's LSU? How's it to be a student at LSU these days?
I mean, it's pretty good. I'm ready to be graduated at this point. I've got like a year left, but I'm ready to be done. I feel like I'm already kind of where I need to be, take the next step in my career. And the piece of paper is kind of the only thing left for me to like go on to like a big network. So
great. So what's your journalistic principle, like, or your inspiration? Like, do you try to be someone who, like, do you try to be that person who asks some hard questions in the right time? Like, are you trying to be a good interviewer? Or are you trying to be more on, like, trying to get ahead of things, trying to be the person who tries to break news, like, what's your approach? Like, where do you think you go, or what's your strength as a journalist, or where do you think? How is it that you see yourself as a journalist? Like, where do you want to take yourself?
So I want to be on an analytic roundtable. I like the breaking news stories I do. I like the fluff stories I do. There's not much about journalism that I don't like, but one thing I don't want to be stuck doing is nothing but the surface. If I'm only covering the surface and I have no sort of, like, analysis involved, then I've lost myself and I've lost my identity. Mm-hmm. And so I don't ever want to be in a role where I'm giving you the 5 o'clock news about how LSU had DBU shirts and look at the crowd doing this and baseball starts tomorrow, which obviously that doesn't work out chronologically in football season and baseball season. I'm just throwing something out there. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've worked really hard to know what I'm talking about. I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy learning more about quarterbacks. I enjoy talking to quarterbacks. I enjoy getting to know background stories on football players, and I would like to continue in a role that allows me to do all of those things.
You ought to go down to Thibodeau in the summertime to the Peyton Manning camps and start covering the Manning camps.
Yeah, I'm going this year. I didn't get a chance to go last year, but I'm going this year.
Yeah. Cool. And that's, you know, it's right there in Louisiana for you, so why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, you know what? I don't know. Like, is there anything else you want to say about XFL or just football in general?
No, I think we pretty much covered all the bases.
Yeah. So do you have, you know, just real quickly, just back to this journalistic kind of, this journalist ethos or something like that. But, you know, I had also a little bit of that kind of, not at all the same way or same ideas as you, but, you know, with all these, there's a few podcasters out there that's kind of like me, who are just kind of amateurs and just, but they're getting access. I don't know if you have any idea about them. There's an XFL Chalk Talk. It's just 4 guys who are friends, and they have many followers, and they've getting access to Oliver Luck, the commissioner of the league, and all this stuff. So they're kind of on their way to making it as XFL, as covering something like beat coverage of the XFL. So they have these kind of people, but, you know, they have, a lot of them are always coming out with these power rankings. And I thought it was, and to me, it was a bit ridiculous to have power rankings before the season started. And it's like, how do you do that? Like, that's just kind of a copycat media thing. Like, this is what media does, so this is what I'm going to do. So that's kind of like, I think that's what I get a sense, a feel from you, is you don't just want to be like the run-of-the-mill media person that just kind of does what the media does just because this is what the media does. But you kind of want to have a little bit of your genuine, like, you want to take yourself a little more into it in a more genuine and more authentic way. Is that an okay way of saying it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that whenever you're in media, whenever you're a journalist, that it's best to be as cliche as it sounds, to be the best, like, original version of you that you can be, because you don't want to fall in line with everyone else. I feel like, and not to, like, brag on myself or anything, but I feel like one thing that I did well is from right out of the gate, at the beginning of my career, I branded myself. I was the 15-year-old girl that was covering a quarterback that, quite frankly, no one liked or really cared about at that point. Because, I mean, once he went to the Titans, he was just not well received for a while. But, yeah, and I mean, that stands out because you're not some 17 or 18-year-old has decided that she wants to be Erin Andrews and doesn't know what she's talking about and is going to post, like, badly edited YouTube videos or something. Like, that's a very generic, it's very predictable, but whenever you have someone who wants to be a quarterback analyst that's a girl and that's a young age, then it's a little bit different.
Right. Have you ever thought about jumping from the coverage side to actually the football side, or do you think you're pretty much going to stay on the journalistic and coverage side of things?
Like jumping to actually working in football?
Yeah, maybe you could probably find some of a mix, work within a football organization's media team, Maybe so that would be.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the original goal, was to try to work for a team. That was what I always wanted to do, was work for someone.
Yeah.
But at this point, that's still something very much on the table that I'd be happy with. But at the same time,
the world's getting bigger and bigger, and you can see opportunities.
If you work for a team, then you still have an analytical role, but you have a lot more fluff stuff going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you can't really be an analyst anymore.
Yeah,
because not everything is going to be rainbows and unicorns, not all positive.
Yeah. I mean, you started off as a young girl with no limitations. You just went for it, and that's who you are, and you come from there, and you just kept on going, and so it'd be a little bit of a tragedy if you end up being in a position, a good position for sure, but some kind of position where it's like, now you have to listen to us all the time. Yeah, because you have to do it our way, and you have to play by these rules all the time, and so you don't have that leeway, or you don't have that. Yeah, it kind of kills your motivation and your. So I could definitely see that, actually. So, but Crissy, I don't even know how long we've been talking, to be honest. But I do appreciate your time, and I hope I haven't taken too much of your time. But it's been interesting.
No, you're fine.
It's been very interesting, and so now I know who you are, and so I'm gonna keep track of both your XFL coverage, but also your career. It's gonna be interesting, and so I appreciate it, Crissy, and good luck with the rest of the school part. And I know, like you said, that it's more about the paper, but it's important to finish that, and it's also an accomplishment in itself. So congratulations with that. And once a tiger, always a tiger. So it's been great, Crissy. It's been interesting.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
So that was Miss Crissy Froyd, and you could find her work at Tiger Wire and Titan Wire on the USA Today SMG web pages after the name Tiger and Titan Wire. So we want to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Crissy as I did. It was a very interesting conversation. She is certainly coming to a television near you one of these days. She certainly presents herself as a very remarkable and articulate young lady, and I wish the best for her in the future. And I really don't even think that I have to, because I think it's already set in the stars. She is on her way. Her no limit, and she sees no limitations, and she gets after it. And I think it is an easy sell for recruiters to see her passion for the sport and her ability to make stories involving, guys like Zach Mettenberger and all the other quarterbacks. I mean, yes, she branded herself, as she said, with the quarterbacks. But come on, is there a more sexy position in sports than quarterbacks? So if you were going to brand yourself into an area, an arena of sports, I mean, covering quarterbacks is a pretty clever way to go about it. So, Crissy, thank you again. It was a pleasure. I really hope all of you out there enjoyed getting to know Crissy. And do find me on Twitter at the Swamp Dane. There's the Facebook page, SEC Junction XFL. And you can also find my covercast, XFL covercast, on LandryFootball.com, where you can also find all kinds of NCAA and NFL information. All you want, scouting and breaking film down, all that good stuff. All you football fans love. So that's what he provides, everything that you football fans desire in your hearts. This has been the Crissy Froyd interview episode of the SEC Junction XFL podcast. So crack back and we'll talk about it,